Few albums in music feel like a eulogy written in real time. Joy Division's Closer is one of them. Riddled with themes of mortality and depression, Closer is a masterpiece tied to mourning. Today we explore the history behind the album's creation, meaning behind each track, and the tragedy tied to it all. In the mid to late 70s, Manchester was a city undergoing significant change. Riddled with industrial decline, hardship, and social unrest, most residents sought an escape from the bleak economic landscape, the vibrant subcultures of disco and punk being the outlet. Ian Curtis, Bernard Sumner, Peter Hook, and Stephen Morris saw this as the perfect backdrop to create something raw, dark, and existential. The majority of the lineup originated in the punk predecessor Warsaw. Warsaw underwent multiple lineup changes, finally adding Stephen Morris to the mix in 1977. Amidst confusion regarding their name in the notable London punk group Warsaw Pact, the boys decided to rename to Joy Division, taken from the name of a sexual slavery wing in a Nazi concentration camp, mentioned in the 1953 novel House of Dolls. With the bleak nature surrounding the name, Joy Division had intentions for their sound to become something deeper. Primary lyricist Ian Curtis would draw inspiration from literary greats like Franz Kafka and William S. Burroughs, intermingled with his own personal struggles, including epilepsy and depression. Joy Division's first full-length, 1979's Unknown Pleasures, transports you to somewhere cold, isolated, and cavernous, while being equally entranced in the process. Even amidst Sumner's atmosphere, Hook's melodic progressions, Morris's hypnotic patterns, and the unconventional production techniques implemented by Martin Hannett, Ian Curtis has this harrowing, bleak authenticity to his delivery, despite more upbeat fairings like Inner Zone or Disorder.
10th floor down the back stairs into no man's land.
It feels like Curtis is a shadow that looms over the entire album. Unknown Pleasures being a prime example of an album that is more than the sum of its parts. As we move into 1980 and the recording for Closer, it's important to note the state of Ian Curtis at the time. His epilepsy and depression were becoming significantly worse, with drinking, smoking, and irregular sleep exacerbating his issues. When coupled with his medications, which his epilepsy was resistant to, Curtis would suffer extreme mood swings, having seizures, often triggered by strobe lights and exhaustion from touring. In October of 1979, he began an affair with Belgian journalist and music promoter Annick Honoré. The impact from this event on Ian's psyche was significant. Now torn between his wife, who he had a child with that same year, the attention of his lover, and the thoughts of uncertainty about his career in Joy Division being sustainable. He would then partially distance himself from the band, ashamed of his actions, and would become entrenched in a significantly deeper state of depression. This frame of mind would go on to lay the lyrical groundwork for what we know now as Closer. Recording for the album would begin in March 1980 at Britannia Row Studios in London, built by Pink Floyd as a recording space for 1977's Animals and 1979's The Wall. Again produced by Martin Hannett, Closer was layered with icy synths, spacious reverb, and abnormal textures. Joy Division's sound was evolving, often diverting into guitar or synthesizer-dominant compositions. The opener, Atrocity Exhibition, is a testament to the experimentation, Hook and Sumner swapping instruments. Laying the foundation with Morris's mechanical drums, Hannett then covers the song in a droning delay. The name, Atrocity Exhibition, is derived from author J.G. Ballard and the title of his linked stories, which focused on exploring how modern media and events can fracture the individual psyche. Isolation then shows off the synth and dance-based elements that Joy Division carried, contrasted by Curtis and his lyricism regarding the effects of his affair with Honoré, the struggles this caused with his marriage, and his feelings of detachment from the world in general. Passover's wailing reverb and crunch continues the motif of a man with ever-increasing guilt from his actions, and struggling with foreseen failures in the future.
I know that I'll lose every time.
Curtis tying this together with loose themes of Passover, a story within the Bible where God shared with the Israelites that they should mark their doors with the blood of a lamb, indicating he should pass over them when unleashing a great final plague on the Egyptians, killing their firstborn male child. Originally recorded in sessions for Unknown Pleasures, Colony takes inspiration from Kafka's work In the Penal Colony. which focuses on observations of a torture and execution device on an island penal colony. The machine inscribing the crimes of a prisoner on their skin, going progressively deeper until death, ultimately granting a religious epiphany to the victim in the last hours of their life. The main character, or traveler, who observes this, rather than being shocked or abhorred by the events, seems very detached and numb to it all. Curtis runs with the narrative, as Colony drives home a detachment and emptiness associated with a person's place in modern society. A Means to an End has such a driving and tight rhythm, capturing Joy Division's signature style of post-punk. Once again, Curtis continues relaying his inner turmoil regarding his interpersonal relationship struggles, issues with trust, and his personal betrayals to those he holds close, most notably his wife Deborah. My favorite track on the album, Heart and Soul, takes place on the back of Morris's skittering rhythm, hypnotic chord progressions and synthesizers forging a ravishing, dark, and moody atmosphere. Heart and Soul speaks to the separation of instinct and reason, a dichotomy that Curtis feels when balancing his marriage to his affair. One of the first songs completed after Unknown Pleasures, 24 Hours, shows Joy Division's control, the ability to execute reeling back and driving forward intensity within its section changes. This is an opportunity for Curtis to compare moments of nostalgia and regret with the anxiety and uncertainty of future. He sees his life spiraling out of control and is uncertain of the outcome. The Eternal then takes you to the darkest reaches of the record. Horrifically bleak sonically, Curtis writes from the scene of either a funeral or a wedding.
Raise to the glory of loved ones now gone.
Likely referring to what could be his untimely future, or his past. The next line's written about a child with Down syndrome, who he observed in his hometown of Macclesfield. The child's world enclosed to their home and garden for protection. Possessed by their condition, it burns like a fury from the inside. Facing a mind plagued by his failures in marriage, infidelity, and potential future, he targets his daughter, who is an integral piece that sits in the balance of his shortcomings. Now closing with the perspective of his child neighbor, who even after moving back decades later, retains the same facial features, staying eternal. This track's placement is probably my only qualm with the record, as I feel it should have been the closer, switched in placement with the final track, Decades. Not known for being political, the progression of a synth melody allows Curtis to shed light on the young men who are forced to fight in war, coupled with the psychological and traumatic experiences that they might be witness to. When they return to civilian life, it is often hard to adjust, as the acts and sights of war are branded on them forever. The synth progression now culminating and offering the end to Closer. Unfortunately, just as Joy Division was reaching new creative heights, Ian Curtis would fall victim to the lyrics he so intimately shared. On the morning of May 18th, 1980, he would tragically take his own life in his Macclesfield home, spending his final hours watching Werner Herzog's 1977 film, Stroschek, whose plot centers around a man of the same name running away to America with a Berlin prostitute. There he begins a downward spiral mentally, due to the shock and surreal nature of American culture, as well as listening to Iggy Pop's 1977 album, The Idiot, titled after Dostoevsky's novel, about a spiritually sensitive epileptic prince who was driven mad by the tragic and violent society in which he lived. Curtis had previously confided in his wife that he had no desire to live past his 20s. He dreaded Joy Division's oncoming US tour, for fear of his condition being mocked by American audiences, while also believing Joy Division had reached their pinnacle despite being on the cusp of emerging into mainstream fame. To the regret of his bandmates, they didn't see Curtis's lyricism as a serious means for actually taking his own life. Following the loss of Ian Curtis, Joy Division would release Love Will Tear Us Apart as a non-album single, with Closer following just a month after. Although initially receiving mixed critical reception, the posthumous release brought about a well-deserved recognition, solidifying the album as a significant work within music's history. Long before Ian's death, a pact was made amongst the group. Should any member leave, the remaining members would change the band name. Following on their word, New Order was born, releasing Ceremony in 1981, featuring the last two songs Curtis had written. Despite their short run, Joy Division's contributions shaped the landscape of post-punk as we know it. Closer, offering a first-hand perspective of someone with nothing more to hide, unfortunately succumbing to the feelings so intricately revealed. Due to that, the album will forever be remembered as a beautiful tragedy. If you enjoyed the video, consider dropping a like, subscribe, or a comment on your thoughts. What do you think about Joy Division, Closer, and the death of Ian Curtis? This channel is devoted to the darker side of art and music, dropping a new video every Wednesday. Until then, I hope to see you again soon. And love will tear us apart again.